Welcome back, everyone. It's another Friday morning. Had a nice, relaxing shower. Birds are chirping outside. Let us settle down and resolve this 1,000-year-old vampire story. These dice, we don't need these. Nor do I really need my character sheet, yeah? Why don't we have a look at what you all had to say? You've had plenty of time to provide feedback here. Kavar writes, so it sounds like Mr. Pendleton wins. He's found a routine that works for him. For data location, while a loyal family of servants settle on the location to provide cover and a home. When the location grows to annoy him or moves to reject him, he moves on. The blood ritual that bound the descendants of Old Willie was initially derived from interactions with the thing that should not be. Perhaps the reintroduction of the thing that should not be allows for a strengthening of the bond with the servitors. Partaking in the blood of the vampire is no longer required. If you can trace a line of descendants back to William, you instinctively need to serve the apothecary that your great-great-great-great-grandfather was entrusted to. Mr. Pendleton goes on with his routine, moving from hunting ground to hunting ground, wherever he goes, planting and leaving behind seeds of William's legacy. With enough time, there are more humans that can trace their line back to William than not. With enough time, there is only room on Earth for the servants and for the master. Having suggested that, it does feel kind of wrong that the monster wins. I was on this ride expecting it to nosedive into tragedy sooner or later. I don't think it's wrong to say that that's the vibe this game seemed to suggest. Maybe I feel a little cheated that the prompts want to keep the tragic nosedive from us. Stephen Wargamer replies, nice ending. Mine would have been like, he roots himself in Boston and gets servants at every level of its government, where he would have an endless hunt ground in place for his experiments in Boston. We'll go ahead and expand something else Tilvara wrote. Tayama, I imagine the immortal construct might be involved with Pendleton reaching a state of stable stasis, maybe through combining their knowledge and their friendship through the arcane manuscripts and experiments on the flesh golem. Pendleton is somehow cured of his need to take in blood to survive, maybe even giving him the ability to resist the sun. That way he can just keep on living on normally without potentially pissing everyone off by killing people around him. That's all I got, though. But to keep going with alternative prompts, I'm certainly fine with it. Neveza? That end prompt is kind of anticlimactic. Imagine watching a movie where you watch someone spiral from his humanity doing everything to survive, and suddenly it ends with, and he lived happy ever after. Aside from just deviating from the prompt, the only thing I can think is all the years Clovis has researched forbidden knowledge that he either learned to create blood or human clones, or even ascended to some beat god that is borderline immortal that no human can ever overpower. I don't know. The prompt just feels too bored and too early to me. Broad, perhaps. For the optimistic utopia statement. Jay Chapman, I think it's neat how the game allows a good ending like this to exist, because it makes the other endings more intense. Also, while being peaceful, I think it's still kind of a dark ending. How different is unchanging forever from death, anyway? Introspective Tinker, I figure this place's stability comes from essentially transcending the vampiric curse through his research into true immortality. The only next step for him is to attempt to regain his memories if he wishes to put in the effort. Lasse? Lace? Maybe over decades as a way to survive in a world that is changing. Lassie? It's changing with increasing speed. Clovis and the Thing perform some kind of experiment or ritual that fuses the two of them and perhaps the servitors into something greater than what they could be apart. Rilder? My only thought for an ending is maybe after that meeting with the Thing that should not be, it eyes that concoction ineffability and mentions something about it that prompts Clovis Pendleton to consume it, and it changes him in a way that allows him to end that way, but yeah, very anticlimactic. Fantastic, Matt. Okay, so that's how the game can end. I was wondering what it would look like. I'd like to see the story continue personally. Maybe you could do this like the old Choose Your Own Adventure books and flip back before the end to take another path, or roll in this case. How does Mr. Pendleton succeed? I'm thinking he uses the info that the thing that should not be to create some sort of flesh goo blob that consumes the East Coast, and soon after, the living mass of the Americas is a sort of biomass that slowly spreads and consumes the world's intellect and flesh into one big mass. Earth becomes a massive meatball with Clovis at the center. The meatball planet launches itself toward more life on distant planets. After all flesh must be consumed. Sad Fat Bat? I think this could be a good finish to the story, but it did blindside me as I'm expecting all the endings to be tragic in some way. Also, I don't think it would have made as much sense, but it would have been funny the resource shared was the Boston apartment and they lived as roommates. It would have been amusing. Zale, ending with their notable destruction, as said in the description. Ha! Looks like Clovis gets off scot-free. Take that, game. Nanya, Clovis Ravenor wins stability. You could technically go for Season 2, the alternate ending prompt. Richard, perhaps the true nature of the thing's gift was the chance for Pendleton to study the flesh golem, which holds the secret of true immortality, without the limitations of his cursed vampiric form. Perhaps he fuses himself with the thing, becoming something greater. And finally, Zombie Ninja, my headcanon is that the thing that should not be helps him overcome the limitations of vampirism. Let's reflect on those, shall we? What is a vampire? The vampire is the character you will follow through the narrative. How they manifest their vampiric nature is up to you, but Thousand-Year-Old Vampire makes several assumptions. To get the best experience out of this game system, your vampire should prey on human beings for sustenance, should seek to camouflage themselves among those on which they feed, should have been a human once and still have human needs in one sense or another, should be susceptible to environmental damage that regular mortals might not care about, such as sunlight, should be practically immortal, should be mostly a loner. The prompts in Thousand-Year-Old Vampire are not necessarily geared towards complex political machinations between factions of immortal beings. Let's now flip to the passage of time. This game is about the grind of centuries. Your vampire will lose their very memories of the passage of years and must pursue continuous reinvention to keep up with the evolution of society around them. Let's flip back to the beginning of the book. Thousand-Year-Old Vampire is a lonely solo role-playing game in which you chronicle the unlife of a vampire over the many centuries of their existence, beginning with the loss of mortality and ending with their inevitable destruction. Let's look back now on the prompt. By the way, I haven't written any of this down. I thought about making notes pertaining to all this stuff. We are zipping along at mercurial speeds. You achieve a position of absolute stability that might sustain you unchanging until the sun dies. What does this mean? The game is over. To me, this prompt suggests that Clovis is no longer a vampire, whatever it is he becomes. Through his mastery of immortal physiology, through the untapped forbidden lore, through the friendship of the thing that should not be, and the recent possession of the flesh golem, in order to achieve this absolute stability, William Pendleton is no longer a vampire. That's why the game ends. The rules can no longer apply. We flip here. There is something I would look for. Which I have promptly forgotten. It's gone. These things happen sometimes, you know. Well, damn. We'll edit that out in post. Wink. Maybe it was that I wanted to reflect on what is a vampire. That they should prey on human beings for sustenance. Should have, they should be susceptible to environmental dangers that regular mortals might not care about, and they should be practically immortal. That's right, I wanted to reflect on immortal creatures in the book. Like immortal characters. Let's have a look at that section. Mortals, on the other hand, are supernatural beings for whom time has little meaning. They might be other vampires, angels, or demons, ghosts, scientific experiments gone wrong, forgotten deities, underground lurkers, meddlesome ancestors, invisible shamblers, softly spoken animated corpses, household gods or sprites, disembodied heads enduring cursed existence under bell jars, or anything else suitably bizarre. The way I would articulate and define what has happened to Mr. Pendleton is that he is a scientific experiment gone right. Or wrong, I suppose, depending on your perspective. This is not something I intend to craft into a singular experience and find a memory slot for it, though if I did, it could very well belong in memory slot 6, the one about freedom, or Mr. Pendleton is free. I hesitated to call it transcendence. Transition is an appropriate word. The feral hunger which consumed him since he awoke in Rome no longer applies. A mastery of immortal beings and friendship over it with an immortal entity, this scientific monstrosity, which returned to Mr. Pendleton's life, and the two bonded with the shared arcane manuscripts and the shared flesh golem? Yeah. Based on the skills we've accumulated, unchecked and checked, and the resources established, it makes perfect sense. Mr. Pendleton is no longer a vampire. Magic and science have been blended together, achieving a unholy unity. I wouldn't say that Mr. Pendleton is the thing that should not be, like, fused together, nor that it might very well have been, like, the consumption of the flesh golem, that the reagent itself, like that resource, is what ends up fueling this diabolical master plan. As a result, Mr. Pendleton need not depend on human beings for sustenance. And also, environmental damage that would normally hinder him does not. He is free to traverse all times of day. After all, he achieves a position of absolute stability that might sustain him, unchanging, until the sun dies. Now, what do we read into, like, that might sustain him unchanging once he achieves, like, his final form? Is he no longer capable of adaptability? Is he in a state of stasis? That can't be true, for if he might be sustained indefinitely, until the sun dies, then he needs to have the tools, like, the skills, the resources to be able to survive in the world. I don't know where the story would go from there, right? Because we're no longer, like, that's why the game must end. We're no longer telling the story of Thousand-Year-Old Vampire. The strictures and regulations no longer apply. I wouldn't say Mr. Pendleton becomes a better person. It just means that instead of hunting for sustenance, he would be hunting for sport. Like, where does the joy at being free with that memory slot that he gained? The Beauty of the Dawn calls you create an additional memory slot dedicated to beauty, nature, or peace. You know, clashing with, like, that feral, like, emphasis he has now. Your feral vampire nature. Like, what is his mind like now? Is it locked into, like, what it has become, this scientific experiment gone right? Does it recover memories that he thought lost. The social mores of him smothering his original identity, like, all that, like, become irrelevant. Like, yeah, he's a predator in plain sight, but it would make sense the thing that should not be. His new friend, when prompted, would remind him of what he had been. The days and months, and decades, centuries. Mr. Pendleton, or whatever name he would end up being, would eventually become an impassive and probably lethargic force. No longer needing to depend upon society to feed him, he would turn to other pursuits. Most likely reclusive in nature. Secluded in some grotto, some equivalent of an ivory tower, far away, forgotten keep, an underground cavern system, as he's able to spend his time accumulating resources without having to worry about them being expended. Whatever niche he would end up carving out for himself could just be turned into perpetual studies, perhaps to see whether he can further evolve upon what he has become, retaining his friendship with the scientific monstrosity, perhaps to further aid and change it. After all, the initial contact came because the thing that should not be wanted Clovis's aid, and the return in contact came about because, like, just like the thing that shouldn't be found Clovis once more, like seeking aid again. Perhaps in this perpetual state, the thing that should not be can become elevated, and this scientific monstrosity can perhaps become something more too. I don't know. I don't have to know. Our game is over. And hell, maybe I put more thought and effort, maybe we collectively have put more thought and effort than the prompt deserved. uh, I wouldn't see this creature, this new thing, Clovis becomes, would have a major impact upon mortal life and society. Among immortal beings, perhaps so, as like a guru or someone that you could go, like, try to find and then seek aid from, as he is so experienced and gifted with the bodies of immortal entities, whether they be angels or demons or vampires or cursed bell things. That's just his expertise. And he remains perpetually like that thing until perhaps some other, like, immortal scheme or concoction ends up derailing the world. And not just that, but space and time, and the sun dies. And then, well, not that he's solar powered, but probably ends him too. That could be 20 years from now, that could be 2,000 years from now. If you were hoping for something more definitive from me, I don't have an apology for you, just, I don't have it. I don't have to make things single evocative sentences anymore. The prompt doesn't tell me to not record an experience, but the prompt tells me the game's fucking over. So I'm gonna stop following the rules of the game. So, that leads us to my thoughts about Thousand-Year-Old Vampire itself. And part of the delay between last episode and this was so those thoughts could coagulate. I would not play Thousand-Year-Old Vampire again. I would selectively recommend Thousand-Year-Old Vampire depending on the person. Right? Thousand-Year-Old Vampire is a lonely solo role-playing game. It doesn't focus on power fantasy. You're a vampire, but it's not like as you grow older, you will become stranger, but also vastly more powerful. Although Clovis did. It's a game about memory loss. We have these prompts. You'll traverse through them. They're going to evoke, like trigger responses within your brain fruit. And you're going to resolve those prompts how you see fit within the confines of the prompt and also the confines of how, like, memories work. Perhaps create a skill or a resource, perhaps lose a resource or check a skill. And then you're going to roll and move on to the next prompt. And eventually you're going to run out of stuff, or the game's going to tell you that it's done here, and we're moving on. So, I have some friends and acquaintances that I could look at this and say, yeah, they would be interested in this type of journaling game, which focuses on these elements of death, selfishness, and predation, where your character may be injured, victimized, trapped, or killed, where your character will murder and victimize people of all sorts, possibly including children, animals, loved ones, marginalized people, or themselves, where you might find yourself exploring themes of imperialism, colonialism, or oppression. Clovis certainly did those things. Characters may engage in self-harm or drug abuse. Illness, debilitation, and body horror may come into play. Character may have their memories altered. Any of those things can, like, be hard-nosed. And that would be why that's part of why I would selectively recommend Thousand-Year-Old Vampire. On that list, memory altering is... Now I've painted myself into a corner. What word do I use to describe this that would somehow not pale in comparison to all the other things listed, right? Oh, shit. Now, I made mention in one of the earlier sessions we did. I think it was with the prompt that gave me so much trouble answering. Which prompt was that? Your strange accent and old ways always reveal you as an outsider. Mocked and cheated at best or hated at worst. Smother these useless traits by converting an old memory to a new skill for blending in. Right, which just happened after Clovis began aiding locals in the face of all the disasters which were befell them. Kind of lost my train of thought there. It's not a good sign. Memories. It's not the first time that's happened this video. That shower's actually tired me. And I am worn out anyway. It's been a rough several days. Thousand-Year-Old Vampire. Wouldn't play it again. Would be hesitant on how I would recommend it. And the structure of the prompts, here I go. Now I'm reminding myself of my train of thought. As I mentioned earlier in the series, I'm reminded of my tables in my innumerable role-playing books I would roll on. Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition, Thieves' Handbook. Finding out that is really bad at this point. Otherwise, I would have pulled it out to show it off. Has examples and, like, tables for how you would go about generating a Thieves Guild and a Guild Master of the Thieves Guild, and it offers examples of what the DM would do if encountering, like, prompts or, like, results that would be incongruous, and how you could end up, like, rolling with those, or trying to interpret them anyway, if you just elected not to re-roll. So, like, I've got all kinds of stuff. I got Blaze in the Dark heist generators, man. This right here, like, the prompts themselves to evoke, like, things from me, I got plenty of those already in my life. I've been role-playing for a few decades. Which leaves us with the rules of the game, which aren't, for me, the biggest trouble point. Would be an experience should be a single evocative sentence. The rulebook partly notes that, I mean, you don't even have to jot these down, you just say them aloud. Like, just keep it rolling, just keep going through the prompts, just keep telling stories depending on how it is you want to play. You want to go turbo fast your quick game? Go for it. Not a journaling thing. That way, you know, you could end up experiencing an entire story very easily in a single session. Within the time, like, could have told several stories in the time it's taken me to tell this one. I didn't much care for the construction of the example experiences I saw through the game. I am not into games which focus on memory loss and inevitable destruction, I suppose, or that's telegraphed to us. Especially when we're kind of left. So I had different expectations coming into this than what I was left with. My friends Manikai and Rahal have told 2 stories, complete in different ways, with Thousand-Year-Old Vampire, and they are certainly different from mine. And I ain't talking about, like, our experiences that we constructed in the memories. No, I am flush. How many unchecked skills do I have? 8. How many checked skills do I have? 9. I have 1 lost skill. That's a lot of fucking skills. Resources? Servitors of the Lineage, Concoction, and Ineffability. What a mysterious thing. What could it have been? Upon chugging it, could it have created, like, a horrifying, like, cloud kill thing? Could it have, like, say, like, a group, like, raids, like, the Plantation Home, our Mannerly estate in Charlestown, and out of desperation, Clovis fucking chucks the thing at the crowd, and, like, this, like, miasma of, like, sparkling violet just spreads out forth over the mob, and their bodies are torn from reality and replaced by carbon-copied versions of themselves with odd smiles and twinkles in their eyes. The miasma disperses, the crowd disperses as well, and they return back to their lives. Or do they? Something like that. What the fuck does it do? We don't have to know. That was just an off-the-cuff example. Our diary. We made adjustments to that. We never lost that sumbitch. I was never in a position where I was like, damn, what do I lose? Oh, fuck, no, the diary. Yeah. We were great on resources. Characters? We got 1 immortal character at the end we made peace with. The other one was the Sire. Sire's fucking dead. We got 2 marks. which helped to, like, visualize how it was that, we interacted. Hell, we got an extra memory slot, right? And we ended up on, like, the prompts overall, fine and well. Then we got into the 70s, and I took the liberty of reading the other prompts, by the way, which is all of them. Once you get past 71, I'm pretty sure it is. 72 through 80 is all game enders. It's understandable given like the very nature of like the dice mechanics and what the creator is going from. Yeah, creator is going for, I should say. I'm now checking to confirm that. Yeah, I won't show those on screen, but they all are brief. Perhaps you viewers out there may have found, like, if I cherry pick them, like, more satisfying than the one I ended up rolling, right? Like, this is what Mr. Pendleton deserved, or you might have found them even more bewildering. What the fuck does this mean? All the same, they're brief. It's just, like, how it is. Like, it ends here. And, so I end with, I suspect, an anomaly of this character just being incredibly well-equipped and capable. I reckon, like, to define my problem here, there isn't, like, anything in the language of the prompts for me to be like, you could, like, check X number of things or lose X number of things to improve your position or achieve a different result or ending. No matter how many things your character is potentially capable of or how many resources they have, that's just not something the game takes into consideration. Granted, the game also, like, has language for there may very well be skills you don't want to check, because they represent things you don't want to be part of the story. You might very well want to play someone who is trying to cling desperately to goodness and kindness and hates, like, the violent beast and the hunger and everything, and based on what we got in these prompts, I just played right into that shit. Like, we developed a system for feeding, we financially profited from victims, we murdered someone, we murdered someone again. And then, we had feral vampire nature emphasized. We used colonial rule to our benefit. Maybe we could have gone native there, or been an insurgent. But then we had helpless people put in our charge. Gone to, you know, just, like... I played into this. I wasn't dragged kicking and screaming into hell. But Hell's Gates were wide the fuck open. That was an easy stroll. I was enticed. So it goes, right? Yeah. It's like, I don't know. And in one aspect, you could say it's real life. No matter how good you are, or how many things you have, you could still be derailed by a terrible circumstance. And to that I would say, what the fuck? This is a role-playing game. You're like, Grimith, it's not power fantasy. And I'm like, look, man. I have 8 fucking unchecked skills. They're like timeouts, I suppose, in a sports game. I'm just putting them in my pocket and I'm carrying them with me off the field. Are there other realities where Clovis Ravenor just suffers mildly, just falls into squalor and ruin? Absolutely. Before we even reach these end prompts. That would be my final thoughts on 1,000-Year-Old Vampire. Not something I play again. I would be hesitant to recommend, but could see it being, like, engrossing and enjoyable for some folk. The resonating feeling of the anticlimactic imprompt, it's definitely true for me. And, like, the feelings of loss and misery and despair and the vampire being grinded down by the ages and a constant struggle to survive. Is this the anomaly? Possibly so. Just where we ended up. Oh well. So it goes, right? It's possible I may play other solo role-playing games, record those for the channel in the future. This was not an experience I regret, uh, and I have enjoyed the viewer participation, such as it was. We showed you all off here at the end. You know, I got into Let's Get On With It adventures as a way to create and share story experiences with others. It just ended up being through Liberal Crime Squad, almost 12 years ago now. In March, it will be 12. And that's what we ended up doing here. A, a view into the mind of someone who has occasional spurts of creativity and sometimes does terrible things. The Star Wars, like, the Sith Lords thing, 2. That's the title of the game I ended up doing with Jafon Milano. Introspective Tanker, we'll call this. It just ended up transitioning into like me playing the game, but then me playing someone who is playing the game. And like turning like the game's experiences into like a game master, trying to entice or direct or guide the person playing the game in various ways. I thought about returning to that now and then, and I'm just like, I don't want to set recording that back up. Different computer, it was annoying to record. And also, I'd have to remember how to play Jafon, and then... But on the other hand, I think, like, it would capture the feeling of, it's been years since the group got together, and they have different personalities and perspectives now. That's just a story that I think ends up just being better in my head than actually being played out. But something where I just, like, have a spreadsheet and show a PDF and maybe roll a few dice. That's a less hurdle to overcome. So, more story burden on my part, having to invent things from these prompts. If you haven't noticed, I have created links for the character sheets for those session versions in the video description of every episode. I, of course, had YouTube timestamps as well, basically being a chapter system to guide people to those roles for convenience. So if you end up re-watching the series for whatever particular reason, and YouTube hasn't broken the chapter system, or for some reason done away with video descriptions, they did away with annotations years back. They've changed all sorts of things over the years. Why not that too? You can have those to guide you, hopefully. I'll leave you with some speed rolling. That's the reason I have the dice out. Let's go back to our book. It's prompt 73 I'm looking for, and I will show you that momentarily. In case you don't want to get a community copy of 1,000-Year-Old Vampire for yourself, and maybe you'd like to tell some stories of your own in your head, we'll have the unofficial expansion pack created by a third party for Clovis, Ravenor, Mr. Pendleton. The next fresh blood you drink makes you horribly ill without a cause you can find. Check a skill to avoid being caught off guard. Right, so we got, efficient slaker. Yeah, we say that. Efficient slaker. Check. We are very efficient blood drinkers. It's right there in the name. That's what we do. We drink all manner of blood. And that's how Clovis avoids getting caught off guard. Great. Let's roll from here. Speed rolling. Our unofficial third-party expansion pack imagined experience pertaining to that. The end. Okay. 4 minus 6. We'll go back to... We'll just stay here in these alternate prompts. You return to an old home to find that any reminder... I need to show the fucking thing, don't I? Find that any reminder of your previous residence has been thoroughly removed, either through the passage of time or through deliberate erasure. What do you do to reclaim it? Well, we're in Boston. Not gonna be heading back to London, because we already, like, that's gone. So, I guess the manor in Charlestown. And, like, deliberate erasure. The folks there want to distance themselves from, like, the haunted, cursed place of the past. And, Mr. Pendleton, claims that he is a relative. And, slings arms of money. And there he goes. He reclaims it. The end. Imagine a story about that. Cool. Let's continue our unofficial expansion pack. We go forward 4. That takes us to 75. Oh my god, 74, 74, my head. You read a historical account of something that you experienced. You aren't mentioned, but something secret and terrible done by you together with 3 others is described in detail. What was done? Who do you think broke the pact of silence? If you were without a fitting deceased mortal character, make up a name for the one you suspect of having revealed it. Create a skill based on what you did long ago. Okay. So, we've definitely got a slew of different, like, mortal characters. Secret and terrible? Oh, yeah, we got all kinds of choices, man. It's beautiful. Historical account? That might very well pertain to what happened to the sickly King Edward. Yes. Create a skill based on what you did long ago. Yes! Murder, bloodshed, slaughter. Oh, no, it's terrible and tragic. It's possible that, we never realized that, Mary Tudor, broke the Pact of Silence. We aren't mentioned? That can't be true. Because we're known as the, whatever the case, it probably involved murder and death. It could have been Bert. You know, the guy who, helped us. His name was Bert, right? Grimith now, flips over. Your name Bert? Yeah, your name was Bert. Yeah, it was probably Bert. Bert probably, like, said some shit. It was probably involving terrible, horrible things, because Clovis is a terrible, horrible entity. Great. Glad we could resolve that. This, the speed rolling, third-party expansion pack isn't going so quick. Let's keep going. Turn the dice cam back on. Maybe I could make this smaller. It's not like we need to keep official track of these results, yeah? That way it doesn't take up so much of the screen? Oh, that sounds especially like effort. That's also a 9. It's the line there. 9 minus 2. We go forward 7. That's the 82. 82, an instrument or tool that you recognize from years before resurfaces. Unstrike or create a resource. Create a character. Does the person who has it know what they have? What should it be used for? What are they doing with it? A resource or tool we have. Well, I mean, that does sound like our medical tools. I mean, it couldn't be the same essential herbs and spices. That'd be... The court finery? No, we're gonna... I mean, the medical tools, it's funny, though, that, an antiquarian, like a collector, like, picks them up off of us, then they end up in, like, the hands of, like, I don't know, like a relative of his, like, inherited the fucking estate, has no clue what the hell they are. Although I am tickled by the idea of the court finery, right? Like, so, but no, like, somehow those clothes survived even after all these years? I mean, I guess stranger things could happen in this fucking universe, but the medical tools are the oldest. We did just recently get rid of those, but it makes the most sense if they could come back into our life. That's funny. I like it. Let's see, I was supposed to create a skill based on what I did long ago. So why don't we just fill that in while we're here? I'm murder best. Great. Unsanctioned, unlicensed third party, man. It's effort quality's gone down drastically. I'm not even like jotting down what number prompts these are. We're just continuing to go. Holy fuck, man. We might even get like a number wrong or something. It doesn't matter. Ah. We go forward 6, front 88. 88. An artistic pursuit attracts your attention. What is it? Years pass as you casually dedicate yourself to mastering it. Strike out 2 or more mortal characters who die old age in the interim. I mean, everyone I've got is like, all the mortal characters are fucking dead anyway at this point. Absolutely, but I mean, I didn't like mark that on the sheet, but we can just super confirm that shit. Bye. Bye. I'll drag you down here. Come along. And you can come along too. Now they're super dead. And what's that? I make another skill? Is that what you're telling me? Create a skill about creating art? Sweet. That's what Clovis needs. Another fucking skill. How do I want to phrase this? Yeah. Harpsichord. You know, like a harpsichord, only, from Trilby's notes. I could play that for you right now, I guess. I have the technology. I mean, I'm recording this and capturing this. Why don't we tune down the music volume a little, though? Let's, oh, this is also going to come from my desktop speakers. I didn't have my headset plugged and I wasn't prepared for this. It's okay. Don't you tell me that you can't support that codec. I don't want to hear that. I'll open this one. There we go. We can even play the longer version of that. It's not the longer version. Grimith, please. Is this a longer version? I don't need your setup right now. I need you to... You know what? This is a terrible idea. I should have never tried to do this. Ah. I'm too worn down for this. Alright, anyway. Harpsichord. Maestro. Maestro of Harpsichord. Hell yeah. Third-party expansion pack, man. What the hell, right? So, I have another fucking skill. That's good. Are we gaming? We're gaming, folks. We are gaming. Years pass. American Revolution, it's all gone. That probably passed the War of 1812 too at this point. Doesn't matter. We're out here playing a harpsichord, man. No, my D10. You know what? Fuck it. It's the third-party expansion pack that landed on a 6. We're going to 91. You begin shrinking. You're about foot shorter than you were. How does this inconvenience you? Check a skill. Son of a bitch. Well... I gotta check a skill, man. I have so many skills. How does this inconvenience us? It's none of my concern. Maybe we need to improve our diet. Maybe we need to increase our uptake. Like, that's what it is. Like, we're shrinking because our dietary needs have changed, and if we just eat enough, you would think that, like, the shrinking would have us eating less, but no, our appetite's only increasing. Listen, I am a master of immortal physiology. Do not question this. This skill can just go live over here. Third-party expansion. Don't mind the gaping hole. It's fine. We'll fill it later. But we're now tiny. Or we're tinier. We're like 5 feet now. Damn. Alright. Where are we going from here? 8 minus 2. We're going forward another 6. So that's 97? Yeah. Boredom leaves you to crave novelty. You experiment with feeding on mortals in new and bizarre ways. Oh, we're doing this again, huh? Some quite inconvenient. You find a method which vastly increases your enjoyment. Create a skill to reflect this discovered method. Well, all flesh has to be eaten, as you all very well know, of course. So, we'll just go ahead and move these up there. Great. And what if we just, like, made a blood fountain engineer? Perfect. What a skill. I guess. We'll just, I will collect, like, the blood into reservoirs and pools, framed by the marrow, the succulent, like, other, like, scrumptious parts of the bodies of my prey, and just beautiful, like, decadent. Again, like the whole vampire event in Magic the Gathering, just really lean into that fucking just sort of disgusting opulence. It's perfectly fine. Don't worry about it. Third-party expansion pack. I'm also a foot shorter, so the fountain is not as tall as you might think. We're working on that. I got the thing that should not be on the case. My blood golem. Oh my god, what if, like... What if the blood golem becomes, like, a perpetually renewing blood fountain? Let me turn the dice cam back on. As we're just haphazardly, like, slinging rolls. And just mowing through these alternative prompts. We stay here. Well, we're gonna have to go to prompt 98 anyway. After a meal which tasted strange, you discover you carry a disease which slowly kills mortals. Create a mark to reflect this. Whenever you interact with a mortal character, place a dot near their name. Each dot has their remaining expectancy. My blood is dangerous for mortals. Oops. Yeah. I mean, like, a disease slowly kills mortals. I mean, I have a possibly incurable... I am the carrier of a potentially incurable disease, but so what? It weakens my victims. Yippee. Great. Our flippant, unsolicited third-party expansion. This sounds like a them problem, really. Alright. Turn the dice cam back on. I had not wagered when I pressed start recording that this video would end up being this length. But here we are. The mood has struck me. We go back to... We're at 96. Fanned to fear by a resurgence in the popularity of old folk tales, you bloodily remove and carefully hide your heart. What container do you place it in? Where do you hide it? Take the stationary resource, my heart. Oh shit. I'm gonna be like one of those entities that has their heart sequestered away. It's not like a phylactery, but you could consider it like a phylactery. I was recently, I think the game's Unexplored. It's a neat dungeon crawler. It's got some cool mechanics to it. In pursuit of that, you know, perpetual amulet of Yendor, right? One of, like, the potential encounters you can have is an ogre lich, basically, who's, like, separated his heart from his body and has, like, kept it away in a chest, and you gotta figure out how to fucking destroy that if you want to actually, like, defeat this ogre lich. Maybe we hide it in the flesh golem. But no one will ever suspect it there. I couldn't say. So let's go ahead and oh no. That's a new thing. Damn it, I don't have that many rows. Okay. Our heart is now a resource. That means we could give that away. Or we could lose that. That sounds potentially dangerous. We go forward 1, which means we go forward 1, which means we go forward 1 to 99. The mortals here are taking some new precaution against you, something which makes their blood taste strange. Feasting upon them gives you vertigo. Some of your teeth become loose. Check a skill and lose any stationary resources as you escape to less proactive environs. We gotta head out to the... Can't even call it... Yeah, we still call it the frontier. We're going out west. Woo! Alright, we gotta check a skill. And we gotta lose stationary resources. Farewell. Well-kept home in Boston. Let's go. Servitors, let's go Flesh Golem. Bearing my heart. What skill do I end up losing? Always have a scapegoat. It's not my fault. You cannot blame me. I was not the cause of your problems or woes or concerns. Everything is fine here. Do not be alarmed. Delicious prey. Yes. Let's do one more. As I am near the hour mark. Go forward 6. 99 plus 6 is like 105. The earth hungrily swallows you. You fall into a sinkhole. You are swept away by underground currents. Lose any resources you weren't carrying. You spend a few years beneath the ground trying to fit yourself through thin passages filled with rushing water. Gain a skill. Emerge from beneath the ground years later near a coastline. Lose any resources we weren't carrying, huh? We gained a skill. Well, we probably weren't carrying a whole lot, huh? Farewell, servants. Farewell, Flesh Golem. Farewell, my heart. Farewell, I mean... What? I wouldn't have, like... Why would I have any of these things on my person, right? Whenever, like, a sinkhole falls. Maybe, like, the medical tools? Would I even carry, like, the diary around with me? No! No, it's all gone! Alright, I'm out of here. It's the end of this fucking unsanctioned expansion pack. I don't endorse 1,000-year-old vampire, but maybe you do. Take care, everyone. Talk to you later.